Yo, what's going on, guys? It's gmeiners here, and you guys have really been liking the DPS meta builds that I've been putting out for Stasis. So in this video, I wanted to go over a very similar build, but for Solar 3.0 Hunters. On its own, compared to other options, Cataclysmic, which is Solar, is easily the best linear fusion rifle in the game, and this holds true for the total amount of damage it can deal, and it's also true for the rate at which it deals damage, aka its DPS. The only reason something like Stasis is ever going to be better is in a team setting where Font of Might is easily procced for your whole team. But in settings where your team might not be doing this setup, or if you're just LFGing, then just proccing Font of Might with a kill works just as good, and then using Cataclysmic ends up being a better option. So today, I'm going to be pairing that setup with a build and some exotics that are going to make our DPS even better. I have made some Solar builds for Hunters in the past, and the mid game is actually super strong. You're going to be able to rely on infinite melee abilities to clear trash adds, and then these melees are also going to be giving us an additional 25% boost to our weapons damage, along with another 25% boost from elemental wells that these melee kills generate for us and our team. Precision final blows or just letting us use our dodge also gives us a stacking benefit of increased handling and reload speed. So once again, for the mid game, this will feel extremely good, but then also for damage, if you are implementing weapon swaps or just want a snappier reload, this will allow us to get super close to max stats for both on most weapons. I did want to also announce that GamerSupps has officially launched their first product in their Sus Snacks line. Not only can you guys stay hydrated, but you can now also snack while you game with snacks that are actually healthy for you, with no added sugar, healthier fats, and even high protein. Order now and get 10% off with code GM in the description if you guys are interested. And with that said, let's kick this build off by hopping into our Solar 3.0 subclass layout. Okay, so first and foremost, you are going to have two main options to run for your super, both of which are currently some of the best supers in the game. 3-shot Golden Gun, aka Marksman, is going to be much better for bosses with smaller hitboxes or from range, and then Blade Barrage is going to be better for most other bosses because you're going to get a bit more damage out of this. For our dodge, we are going to be on Marksman. This reloads our equipped weapon whenever we perform a dodge, and I would honestly say if you do have a Warlock running Lunafaction boots during a DPS phase, this may or may not be needed, so Gambler's Dodge would also work here. For our melee, we have Fan of Knives, which is going to spawn in elemental wells for us with some of our mods later on, and this will also make us Radiant eventually as well. Lastly, I am running Healing Grenade with this build. In endgame content, I don't really see any other grenade being quite as strong, but if you do need a grenade for ad clear in any situation, then this can be switched up. For our first aspect, we have Knock 'em Down, which is going to buff the supers we have access to. Blade Barrage is going to be getting between 3 to 5 more knives each time we cast our super, so that is going to be just a straight increase in our damage, assuming everything hits. And then for Marksman, we are going to be getting a 4-second longer duration, which won't be much of use to us. But the main thing we get here is instant melee ability regen anytime we get a melee final blow while Radiant, which will happen anytime we get a melee kill, so basically our melee is going to be endless. Second to this is the aspect on your mark, which is going to give us a whopping 3 fragment slots to use, along with some pretty major benefits. With this, every time we get a precision final blow, we're getting a stacking benefit. This is going to give us plus 20 handling and plus 20 reload speed per stack, up to 3 stacks, and then with the reload speed, we also get a 0.93x duration multiplier. It isn't super clear if this multiplier stacks as well per stack we earn, and then whenever we do dodge, this just gives us ×3 immediately. Either way, this is going to be super beneficial for us during damage phases, and it also applies to our teammates. So even though we may be able to bypass by dodging to reload, this could also just increase their reload speed. And even if your team does have a Lunafaction well, the handling will still come in clutch for proccing something like Bait and Switch. We do have 5 total fragments to use, which is amazing for this build. First up is going to be Ember of Torches. This is going to give us and nearby allies the Radiant buff anytime we land a melee hit. Since we should have infinite melees with this build, that will always allow us to constantly keep proccing this, and this is a 25% increase to all weapon damage. Ember of Singeing is up next, and this gives us a 300% increase to class ability regeneration whenever we scorch targets for 3 seconds. Since dodge cooldowns are super short with high mobility, this can easily allow us to use multiple dodges to bypass reloads during the same damage phase. For reference, at only tier 4 mobility, this allowed me to get around half of my dodge fully back in just those 3 seconds alone, when the base cooldown is around 23 seconds, so this increase is massive. Ember of Char is also going to allow solar ignitions that we create to now spread Scorch to targets. So by using this and an incandescent weapon, we will constantly be spreading higher Scorch stacks, dealing more tick damage, but then also reapplying Scorch, which should keep this dodge regeneration up to 300% from Singeing. Ember of Beams gives our solar super projectiles better tracking, so this is just going to be purely for Blade Barrage so that our damage with the super stays consistent. And then lastly, we have Ember of Empyrean. This will allow us to keep restoration and radiant effects applied to us up. Each time we get an ability kill or a solar weapon kill, this just increases our timer's duration, meaning that we can roam with constant health regeneration and 25% more damage as long as we keep getting kills. The very last part of this build is going to be our mods and the exotic we use. Because we are focusing on super damage to help buff our DPS, I think that Star Eater scales are an obvious choice to run. With this, each and every time we pick up an Orb of Power, we get additional super energy. Super orbs go from 7.1% up to 10%, which is solid, but small orbs go from 2.5% to 4.17%, which is a much larger increase from a percentage point of view. So this will actually allow us to gain much more super energy if we spawn in the orbs ourselves. To do this effectively, since we are on solar and we are using a solar weapon, the Helmet Mod Harmonic Siphon is a great choice. This is only 1 energy, so it's super cheap, and then every 2 kills we get with solar weapons will now drop 1 small orb of power. So by dealing damage, getting kills, and then now getting 4% energy back each orb we grab, our super bar flies up. After our super is fully charged, picking up even more orbs will then increase our super damage. Each orb is around 20% increased damage, up to 4 orbs total, for a max of 70% increased super damage. The values are on screen now, but this is going to be how we get another substantial increase in our damage from supers with the build. Last up for our mods, I am running Melee Wellmaker so that the melee kills we get with this build are going to generate us solar elemental wells for us to pick up. I also have on Elemental Time Dilation, which will allow multiple copies of duration-based well mods to start stacking. And then finally, we have on 3 copies of Font of Might. These are going to be on my boots, chest, and arms, but you can put them wherever they fit. And this allows me to get up to 21 full seconds of Font of Might each time I grab an elemental well. For those of you who don't know, Font of Might is a 25% increase to weapon damage that matches our subclass type whenever we grab a well of our same subclass type. So for us, a solar well increases our solar weapon damage when on a solar subclass. Overall, I ended up pairing this with a Cataclysmic that had enhanced 4 times the charm and focused fury. I went over damage numbers in a recent video, which I will link below. I mentioned that this roll is actually better for longer damage phases, which is really anything past the 10 to 12 second mark. And this allows us to utilize a buff, debuff, and Font of Might to hit as hard as possible in Destiny, while also using our super for some added burst damage. And with that, you should have one of the best setups in the entire game for dealing damage. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the build in the comments below, and which subclass you like dealing DPS with the most. I do also stream a bunch over on Twitch where we do lowmans and speedruns live. A link to that and my Discord server with all of my builds are in the description below. Anyways, that's all for this video, guys. As always, have a good one. Peace.